The disappearance. The rain was heavy the night Evelyn Hart was taken away. It poured against the windows of her small home in Portland like a judgment from the sky. She remembered the cold sting of metal cuffs on her wrists, the shouting, and the blurred face of her sister, Miranda, holding her baby, rocking back and forth like she was already the mother. Evelyn had just given birth 3 weeks earlier, barely sleeping, barely eating, vulnerable in every way. And Miranda knew it. Evelyn wasn't crazy. But that didn't matter when her sister had spent months planting the idea in everyone's minds, whispers at baby showers, secret conversations with neighbors, a carefully orchestrated web of doubt. She said Evelyn talked to shadows. That she forgot to feed the baby. That she screamed at walls. A few well-timed videos, clips out of context, taken after sleepless nights, and suddenly Evelyn's fate was sealed. They called it postpartum psychosis. Miranda made it sound clinical, concerned, loving. "I just want her to get help," she told the social workers. "The baby deserves safety." But Evelyn saw what it really was, a theft more brutal than any crime. Miranda had taken everything, her baby, her reputation, and her freedom. For 3 years, Evelyn lived in the Weston Psychiatric Institute. A clean, beige prison where no one listened and everyone assumed. She played along, took the medication, nodded when they said she was better. But inside, she burned. And in that fire, a new Evelyn was forged, calm, calculated, and quietly planning. By the time the doctors released her, she was no longer the trembling girl who'd been dragged from her home. She stepped into the sunlight with steady steps, a duffel bag over her shoulder, and no family waiting to greet her. Miranda had erased her, moved away, changed her number, cut all ties. Evelyn knew this because she'd checked. Many times. But Evelyn also knew how to find things. In the quiet of the institution, she'd read everything she could, books on psychology, hacking, manipulation, surveillance. Her mind had become a blade. She didn't want revenge in blood or fists. She wanted Miranda to unravel from the inside. Slowly. Desperately. Just like she had. It started with locating her. That part was easy. Miranda had moved to a charming suburb outside Seattle, remarried to a man named Daniel Grayson, and had legally adopted Evelyn's son, now called Caleb. They lived in a 2-story colonial with a white picket fence and a golden retriever. From the outside, it looked like a picture-perfect life. Evelyn smiled when she saw the photos. She rented a small apartment across town under a fake name, Lena Moore. Got a job at a bookstore. Wore glasses she didn't need. Dyed her hair dark brown. She watched Miranda from a distance, memorizing her routines. The yoga class on Tuesdays. Grocery runs on Friday mornings. The school drop-offs. She noted everything. Miranda hadn't aged well, worry lines etched around her eyes, a stiffness in her walk. Still thin, still polished, but Evelyn saw the cracks. She'd always been good at spotting weakness. The first step in her plan was subtle. One morning, Miranda received a letter in a child's handwriting. "Why do you lie?" it read. There was no return address. Just a crayon drawing of a woman crying in a hospital bed. Miranda froze when she opened it, staring at it for minutes before shoving it deep into the trash. Evelyn watched from her car, parked across the street. Next came the phone calls. Static on the line. Silence. Breathing. Always around 2 a.m. Then she'd hang up. After a few weeks, Miranda began to look tired. Her eyes darted more. She installed a new security system. But Evelyn never broke into the house. That would have been too simple. She wanted to haunt Miranda, not just scare her. At the same time, Evelyn started reaching out to Caleb. Carefully. An anonymous letter with a photo of him as a baby, held in Evelyn's arms, slipped into his school locker. "Your real story matters," it said. Another week, a stranger at the park, a friend of Evelyn's from group therapy, handed him a book with a pressed flower inside, the same kind Evelyn used to keep when she was a teenager. Caleb noticed, but didn't understand. Yet. The cracks were widening. One afternoon, Miranda stood in her backyard, clutching her phone, whispering to someone, "Daniel, most likely." Her hands trembled. Evelyn knew that fear well. It wasn't just guilt anymore. It was the creeping realization that the past hadn't stayed buried. And that it might come back to reclaim what it lost. Evelyn had no intention of hurting Caleb. He was innocent. But he was also the key. The truth would come in layers, never forced, only revealed. She didn't want him to hate Miranda. Not yet. But she wanted questions to bloom in his young mind like seeds, growing slowly, until one day, he'd ask the question Miranda couldn't answer. Who is she really? As night fell and Evelyn returned to her apartment, she opened her notebook. Page after page detailed the next steps. There were files, school reports, birth records, photographs. But there were also notes on Miranda's mental health, the medications she'd secretly been taking for years, the anxiety disorder she'd hidden even from Daniel. Evelyn knew everything. And she would use it all. Not to destroy Miranda's life. Just to take back what had always been hers. And maybe, along the way, make Miranda lose her mind. The cracks in the mirror. Miranda's dreams had started changing. Every night they ended the same way, with a woman standing at the end of her bed, silent, her face half hidden by shadows, holding a baby and staring. Sometimes she spoke. Other times, she simply pointed. Miranda would jolt awake, heart racing, hands clenched in the sheets. Daniel slept through it all, undisturbed. But Miranda no longer slept through the night. Not ever. During the day, she tried to maintain normalcy. School runs, house chores, PTA meetings. Her smile was still intact, but it had become a performance. Behind it, a storm churned. Caleb had started asking questions. It began innocently enough. "Mom, was I adopted?" Miranda froze at the kitchen counter, the knife halfway through an apple. "What?" "No, sweetie. Of course not," she replied, the lie slipping out too smoothly. Caleb tilted his head. "Then why do I have this picture?" He held up a folded photograph, one that Miranda knew had been burned. Or so she thought. It was Evelyn, unmistakably, holding baby Caleb in a hospital bed. The timestamp in the corner made Miranda's stomach twist. "Where did you get this?" she asked sharply, her voice too loud. Caleb looked startled. "A girl at school gave it to me. Said it was important." Miranda tried to smile again. "It's nothing. Just someone trying to confuse you. I'll talk to your school about it, okay?" But her hand trembled as she snatched the photo. That night, Miranda tore through her storage boxes in the garage. She dug up old papers, documents, burned notes, trying to convince herself it was all sealed, all forgotten. But the edges of her past were unraveling. She sat on the cold floor, gripping a letter from Evelyn's doctor, one that Miranda had forged years ago to initiate the psychiatric hold. At the time, it felt justified. Evelyn had been unstable, grieving, hormonal, irrational. At least that's what Miranda told herself. But deep down, she knew the truth. She had taken advantage. She had taken her sister's baby. And now, someone wanted her to remember. The next morning, Evelyn made her first in-person move. She visited the school, dressed as Lena Moore, posing as a children's author offering a free book donation. She wore soft makeup, a modest dress, and spoke with charm. The principal welcomed her warmly. Evelyn left behind a stack of books and a handwritten note tucked into one. "I remember every lullaby I sang to you, Mom." She watched from the parking lot as the children poured out for recess. Caleb ran with a group of boys, laughing, free. Evelyn felt a pull in her chest, something painful and beautiful. Her son. Her blood. She had missed so much. First steps, first words, birthday candles. But she'd reclaim more than just memories. She'd reclaim truth. Back in her apartment, Evelyn turned to the next phase, Miranda's mind. She printed out old therapy transcripts, police records, even the fake doctor's signature that Miranda had used on Evelyn's commitment papers. Carefully, she made anonymous drops, one in Daniel's briefcase, one in the mailbox, one taped under Miranda's car windshield. By the end of the week, Daniel confronted Miranda. "I got a strange letter," he said, frowning. "With some documents. About Evelyn. Why would someone say you had her committed with fake paperwork?" Miranda's throat closed. I don't know," she lied. "Probably someone from her past trying to scare us." Daniel looked unconvinced. "There's a signature from a doctor who died in 2017. But the letter's dated 2019. She paused. "That can't be right." But Daniel kept looking at her, his gaze hardening. That night, Evelyn sent a text from a burner phone. "You wore my perfume the day you signed the papers. Did it make you feel like me? Or did you just want to erase me completely?" Miranda stared at the message for hours. She deleted it, blocked the number, reset her phone. But it didn't matter. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She tried going to the police, but with no direct threats or name attached, they chalked it up to spam harassment. "Change your numbers. Stay alert," they told her. But Miranda knew better. This wasn't random. It was surgical. Meanwhile, Caleb had grown more distant. "Why don't I have baby pictures with you, Mom?" he asked over dinner. Miranda hesitated. "You were born early. It was chaotic. Most things got lost." Caleb frowned. "But why does someone else have them?" Miranda slammed her fork down. "I said drop it." Daniel stared at her. Caleb pushed his plate away. Silence followed. Evelyn had achieved what she wanted, fractures within the home. Then came the final push for the second phase. A gift box was delivered to Miranda's porch. Inside was a baby blanket, stained, worn, but unmistakably real. It had Evelyn's initials stitched into the corner, along with a hospital wristband. Miranda's knees buckled when she saw it. The past was no longer whispering. It was screaming. She rushed to the mirror in her bedroom and stared at her reflection, eyes wide, red-veined, paranoid. She could barely recognize herself. "This isn't real," she whispered. "It's not real." But it was. And the worst part? No one believed her. Daniel no longer trusted her explanations. Caleb grew cold, guarded. The perfect life she'd stolen was starting to feel like a performance where the curtains were falling fast. And Evelyn, sitting quietly in her apartment just 5 blocks away, watched it all unfold with the calm precision of a conductor. Her baby was getting closer. And Miranda's mind was slipping. Just as planned. The mind's final break. Miranda no longer trusted mirrors. Each time she looked into one, she saw Evelyn behind her. Not physically, never that obvious. But in her expression, in the fear widening her eyes, in the tired skin beneath them. The weight of paranoia grew heavier every day, and now even her own reflection looked like an accusation. Daniel had moved into the guest room. Caleb barely spoke to her. The walls of her carefully built life were closing in, and she couldn't find a door. She had spent years painting a version of the past, one where she was the savior and Evelyn was the unstable mess. She almost believed it herself. But the truth, like a splinter, always finds its way to the surface. She'd started hearing whispers at night. Nothing clear, just faint murmurs. Sometimes, she'd find a candle burning she swore she never lit. Once, the baby monitor they'd long ago packed away crackled back to life, repeating a single line in Evelyn's voice, "He was never yours." She screamed when she heard it. Daniel unplugged it and asked if she was drinking again. "I'm not crazy," she shouted, desperate. He didn't respond. That night, Evelyn made her final move. She arranged a meeting at a nearby park, one where she used to take Caleb as a newborn. She called Daniel from a different burner number, using a calm, measured voice. "My name is Lena Moore. I have information your wife's been hiding for years. Come alone." 4 p.m. Don't bring Miranda. Daniel, skeptical but curious, arrived on time. He sat on a bench, looking for signs of a setup. When Evelyn approached, dressed in a soft gray coat and sunglasses, something about her seemed familiar, though he couldn't place it. "Mr. Grayson," she greeted. "I won't waste your time." She handed him a manila folder. Inside were original hospital birth certificates, Evelyn's mental health records showing no diagnosis, time-stamped photos of Miranda with Evelyn's baby just days after she'd been institutionalized, and finally, the forged commitment documents Miranda had filed. Daniel's hands trembled. Who are you?" Evelyn took off her glasses and stared straight at him. "I'm his mother." His face drained of color. "But Miranda said." "She lied. She manipulated the system and stole my child." Evelyn held his gaze, letting the weight of the truth settle. "I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want what was taken from me. I want Caleb to know who I am. And I want her to finally understand what it feels like to lose everything." Daniel said nothing. He couldn't. The world he'd built, the trust he had in Miranda, was crumbling. Back at home, Miranda sensed the shift immediately when Daniel walked through the door. His eyes no longer held confusion or pity. Just cold understanding. "What's wrong?" she asked. He dropped the folder on the table without a word. As Miranda flipped through the contents, her hands shook uncontrollably. Her chest tightened. "This is all lies," she said breathlessly. "Is it?" he replied quietly. "Because something tells me it's not." She wanted to scream, to beg him not to believe Evelyn. But how could she? The truth was sitting in front of them, undeniable. For the first time in years, Miranda felt something deeper than fear, she felt helpless. Later that night, Caleb walked into her room. "Mom, who is Evelyn?" Miranda tried to hide her panic, but it was too late. She's not someone you need to worry about," she whispered. "She says she's my mom." "She's lying." "But she looks like me." That broke Miranda. She collapsed into a chair, sobbing. "She gave you away?" Caleb asked. I took you because she wasn't well," Miranda said, the lie automatic but thin. "Or maybe because you wanted a child of your own and she had one." His words cut like glass. He left her sitting there in silence. The next morning, Evelyn waited in the same park. She didn't expect anything. But she hoped. And then, Caleb came walking down the path. Alone. He approached slowly, cautiously. "You really my mom?" Evelyn knelt down to his level, eyes soft but firm. "Yes. I was taken away. But I never stopped thinking about you. Never stopped loving you." Caleb didn't say anything for a long time. Then, finally. "Can we talk sometimes? Just us?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Anytime you want." He hugged her, hesitantly at first, then tightly. Evelyn held him like it was the first time. Because in many ways, it was. Back at the house, Miranda stared at the bedroom wall, blank and unmoving. Her sister had never physically harmed her. Evelyn had done something worse. She had let the truth destroy her. Miranda's friends stopped calling. Daniel took time away from her. Caleb was distant. She no longer trusted the walls of her own home. Her reality was a fragile sheet of ice, cracking with every breath. And somewhere, in a small bookstore job under the name Lena Moore, Evelyn smiled softly, not out of cruelty, but justice. She hadn't needed revenge that spilled blood. She only needed the truth. Because sometimes the most devastating punishment is simply giving someone back the mirror they forced you to shatter.